10, the big 10-0. Yes, thank you for listening, I suppose. And thank you also to the lovely George and Gavin, who are also with me this evening. Oh no, I'm adding words in that don't need to be there today. Anyway, say hello, George.
Hello, and happy
say hello,
New Year.
Gav.
Hello, how is everybody doing today?
Good.
Good.
Excellent.
Apologies for talking over you there, George. I didn't realise you were
I
going
had-
to say Happy New Year.
I had nothing but good wishes for you, Nevi.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do. Has it been snowing by you guys today, / yesterday, / the day before?
No.
Nope.
No,
It's been very cold.
We had a good inch of snow here, near enough, I think, yesterday.
That Midlands microclimate.
Well, the north still, Yorkshire.
Ah,
Yeah.
Well, that's my accurate knowledge of the UK then.
There's your geography lesson for
I
today.
suppose, in theory, I am Midlands compared to you two, so I'm middle of the lands.
You are possibly in a midpoint between the two of us, yeah.
Yeah.
Get the rulers out.
The ruler of the Middle Lands. Gosh, we've gone Tolkien-esque already. Anyway, do you all have a good Christmas, New Year?
I did, yeah. I got round
words.
to managed to play a handful of games. Managed to bring 1 or 2 board games to the family. I spent a while deciding what would be best to bring back for Christmas.
Yeah.
Brought back Flamme Rouge. Went down quite well.
Did, and you can all watch our George's unboxing of that on our YouTube channel, which is, oh god, if you search bits and pieces, it'll be something like that. I can't remember the exact name.
sure.
Don't
don't worry
don't
about
leave
it.
them in the hands of Google's algorithm and our
If
terrible
you go
SEO.
if you go on the site, it's in the top right. Just click on that. Go on bitsandpieces.games, click top right, the thing that looks like YouTube. I can't think of what the channel's called now. I'm assuming it's just bits and pieces.
Let's
but
move
it might not
swiftly
be.
on.
Yeah, let's cover this up quickly.
Sorry, I'm rambling. Anyway, we've got exciting things ahead today. We're going to talk
It's
about
that New Year's excitement, Nevi.
we're going to talk about games we're looking forward to playing, games that we should have been playing, and games that we really should have already played, as well as some New Year's gaming resolutions. And then George has a quiz, which I'm really looking forward to because it's about all the naff knockoff game consoles you find on Amazon. So it should
We'll
be
invite
really
the two of
funny.
you into my bargain basement where you're going to have to spot the deals from the steals.
Whoa.
It almost works. Imagine that I'm stealing from you.
stealing our knowledge or lack of, perhaps.
Stealing our hard-earned Christmas cash
Exactly that.
by peddling fake deals at us.
Yes. Anyway, should we jump straight in on our games that we're looking forward to in 2018?
Yeah, let's start on a positive note because I am definitely most excited, and I'm sure a lot of people are, for Red Dead Redemption 2. Because Red Dead Redemption 1, technically the second in its series, is probably one of my favourite games ever.
enough.
Easily top 5. Just because, it just manages to create such a lovely world to inhabit.
Yeah.
And it's so atmospheric and just nice.
It is. It's very nice.
No, I have distinct memories of playing Red Dead because I didn't get it when it came out. I got it when I had mumps in university for about 2 weeks or so. I couldn't really leave my flat, so I just sort of sat indoors and played Red Dead Redemption for about sort of pretty much every day. So that my main memory of Red Dead Redemption is also being incredibly swollen around the neck due to the fun things that are mumps.
Yeah, so
That's pleasant.
yeah, not the best thing to associate with it.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure the guys at Rockstar are very happy that's when you think back, that's the emotion it evokes in you.
exactly. Yeah, I think I had that and Darksiders. But I think I played Red Dead more. I think there was a third game, but I can't remember what it is now. I mostly just remember playing Red Dead and just riding around that.
Did
Amazing
either
world.
of you play? Because I never did the very first Red Dead game. Was it Red Dead Revolver? I think it was called.
I never played it. No.
No, I never played it. Wasn't it a bit more like a kind of akin to like a light gun game almost?
I think so. It might have.
It had like
Was it
you were
first
like
person?
I think it was third person. You were like in set standing positions and you had to shoot off
Were you?
stuff. Am I remembering that wrong?
No, I get pretty confused. There's a few games that are quite similar, but I think it was kind of a very small open world. But I'm not 100%. Because I get confused between Red Dead Revolver and
Gun.
Yes.
Gun.
Yeah, I remember friends like having that on PS2, and that was like at the time when probably around when GTA San Andreas came out, but it was like I was probably 11, so it was always like, ooh, which of your friends has got a GTA or Gun, because they were like the kind of the ultra violent thing that you weren't supposed to play.
That and Manhunt.
I never played Manhunt, but
No,
yeah.
neither.
I remember hearing,
Manhunt had like a legendary reputation.
yeah, I remember hearing about it.
Like, oh, people have actually died after playing this game, and Barry from school's got it. Anyway, yeah, I think there's a strong claim, back on topic, for Red Dead being maybe the best Rockstar game,
Yeah, like
because it is very good.
like even
Yeah,
like somehow even the parts of Rockstar games that are quite dull, like driving places while someone delivers exposition, were just quite, or at least I didn't find boring and often was quite happy to do in Red Dead, because it made it very, like, often you were just riding a coach somewhere or cantering beside someone
yeah.
while they chatted.
The landscape's very nice.
But yeah, like the landscape, the score, it's just like being a nice western.
Mm-hmm.
And like the bit that always stuck out for me, I think, is when in the finale of the game, when you realize, like, John Marsden realizes his family's in danger and he has to like ride back to his homestead. There's just a great bit where you're riding through this kind of trail in the middle of like a thunderstorm, and the music starts playing, and it's great.
Yeah, I think it manages to have like a very good. I mean, Rockstar in general are pretty good at it, but it has like a very good mix of being like open world and also managing to get those kind of very kind of cinematic mission based moments like that, while also feeling like it's part of the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, so hopefully it doesn't get pushed back again, but
Yeah, hopefully.
because this is a prequel,
Yeah,
set possibly even before. So I think the story of Red Dead Redemption is you're an ex-gang member blackmailed by the FBI into hunting down the members of the gang that you left, and this is set in. The protagonist is in the gang that
yeah,
your character rode with in the previous game, but possibly before that character joins.
Right.
Or
Okay.
I think it's that, and
yeah. I can't remember exactly.
it seems like he's going to be a much more criminal character, because in Red Dead Redemption you are a character seeking redemption. So
Yes,
I mean,
you're
that's
basically
the core thematic element of the game.
Yeah,
Of course, the title. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that carries through, because obviously they haven't called it Red Dead
Not Redemption.
Resolution,
Red Dead. I'm a bad guy.
Red
now.
Dead Revengeance. They've stuck with
I'd play it.
they've stuck. You're a Western metal cyborg man with a ninja sword.
You go to Mexico and suddenly riding in a sombrero climbs out of a drain pipe somewhere.
I would not be surprised.
But yeah, like they've obviously they've had a reason for sticking with Redemption and going Redemption 2. So perhaps you'll turn good. But I'm also just like, I'm a little worried about how they handle online, because
Slightly.
GTA Online has been just hugely successful for Rockstar. However, it does have some massive problems which has always kind of got in the way of me having a properly fun time. Just like
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the game released, and I think it's like networking architecture immediately aged, because that game is quite old now. Because it takes so long to load, you constantly drop from games, as well as just navigating the menus to get into games is horrible, which I think I said before. Mm-hmm. But they have. I think my main worry is the fact that the GTA 5 saw such success with online that they put all their focus into developing online, and we haven't seen any single player expansions for GTA 5. And I'm not hugely sad about that, but if the story experience is anything like the first Red Dead Redemption, like I'd love to see it continued, supported, and kind of, you know, I hope that I don't, like, I worry that I'll come out the other side of Red Dead Redemption 2, be really excited for kind of more story, and then it won't quite happen.
Yeah, I mean, because they had a good history for a while of doing really high quality expansion packs. Because, I mean, Red Dead Redemption never got a proper one, but it got Undead Nightmare, which was very good.
Yeah, which was like a interesting and big expansion.
Yeah, and then GTA 4 obviously had some really good expansions, and then I don't know. So kind of optimism, but tinged obviously with a little bit of worry. Maybe. Did
you ever play much of the Red Dead online stuff?
A bit,
because I actually had a huge amount of fun. It had like these 10 co-op missions, which I think they released 5 initially, and then they released a couple more as like free DLC. And they're almost the kind of like the forerunner to the heist missions in GTA Online. Yeah. And they were these just really fun, like 2 to 4 player co-op missions. And you'd kind of travel across the map and just kind of do interesting things that, you know, be like clear out a hideout and then perhaps escort something, and they were just really fun. And like I played them so much. Like I remember at one point, a friend came over to mine and I was like, "Oh, have a go at these co-op missions with a friend online," and he was wearing the headset and. We knew the mission so well, like we just kept playing these same 10 missions over and over again, that even though we weren't talking to each other, we were both relaying the exact same advice at the exact same time to my poor friend in the middle of the two of us.
I remember doing those. I also remember having a lot of fun online, bombing my friends off their shitty little mules.
Yeah, or running around with the tomahawks was always good fun.
It was, yeah. Anyway, so I believe that there's something else horse related that you're looking forward to.
Well, I mean, I think all of the games I'm excited for in 2018, I think could feature horses, because I'm also quite excited for Far Cry 5.
Any horses in there?
Well, there could be. Like, there's a lot of vehicles, and you could ride elephants in Far Cry 4, and it's set in the Midwest somewhere. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason why there couldn't be horses.
I mean, if we look at the horseometer here, if we detect the horse probability, that's pretty high.
Yeah.
Our horse forecast is 3 out of 5 horses.
Yeah. There's a strong horse front moving in over the Midwest of America.
4 out of 5 horseshoes chance of it happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm quite excited for that. Like, I think it looks to be like a bigger, interesting open world. I think it'll just be like quite a fun, silly game. Like I think, because I loved Far Cry 3. Thought Far Cry 4 was a bit too similar and a bit duller.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed the Far Cry 3 story. Like I thought it was at the time it felt quite kind of fresh and interesting.
Yeah, it was quite good. I think. Kind of a weak back half, but yeah, the first...
Yeah, like it... Because at the time, you know, it was kind of almost like the silliness of it still felt quite new at the time. But it was like, it was silly while not... Somehow it managed to balance being completely insane with, to an extent, a meaningful story. Like it has you, you know, burning down a weed farm to bonfire, which is what
while Skrillex plays in the background. I think that bit will have dated a bit.
That bit probably quite dated, but I remember playing that level, and I thought it was ace. I loved it. But what happened? I was walking towards the thing, and then just out of nowhere, Skrillex starts playing, and I was so confused. But it really confused me because I thought it was coming from outside the game. So I was like, "Hang on, did I leave a YouTube window open or something?" And I was like. So I ended up like alt tabbing out the game, trying to find where the music was coming from, and then I was like, "Oh, right, it's the game. Because it's literally just for that one level, suddenly it just starts blaring like in your character's head because he's, off his nut.
He is not stable.
And yeah, I mean, like Far Cry 4.
Yeah, it was kind of more of the same, really.
Kind of, yeah. I didn't get that far with it, but it felt a bit more somber, and just kind of not great. And it was hitting some of the same notes, but was a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And Far Cry 5 looks interesting. I just worried it might be, from what I've seen, it might be too silly, because like all of the clips I've seen are just a bit like, that sound like it's a bit like almost childish. Like I keep seeing a gameplay level of like collect bull testicles for the testicle festival, which is a real festival. I'm not.
There's a real testicle festival.
There's a testy fest.
Nice.
But it's like you have to go and kill a whole load of bulls and in weird ways, and all just a bit,
take their balls,
and it's all quite pleased with itself at like testicles. They're really funny.
A bit like the Final Fantasy. I actually said Final Fantasy. The Far Cry equivalent of a Michael McIntyre skit about bull testicles.
Yes, exactly that.
It just seems quite like, bull testicles, eh? What's the deal with those?
Can you imagine a Final Fantasy with bull testicles?
The very nice looking ingredients in 15. But it's bull nuts.
Yeah, that could happen. Really
I
nicely
can
rendered.
believe it. Cup noodle bull balls flavor.
But yeah, I guess the final game I'm quite excited for is it's kind of two games that may or may not come out this year. Because one is Mountain Blade 2, which there is a 5 out of 5 horseshoe chance of horses.
Extreme horse.
Like if there were no horses, I don't know what would be going on.
It was
but
Blade
that game has been coming out next year for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And it tends to be it's probably coming out next year, and then you just hear nothing.
Nice. Hopefully not this time, but maybe this time.
Imagine if they just swapped all the horses for other animals like giraffes and anything else you could mount instead. There's just no horses in it. Didn't get the horse licensing through or something. The horse lobby has gone, nope.
Didn't get the papers back from the horse board in time.
Yeah.
So here we've just got Blade 2 with Wesley Snipes.
I was thinking, Mountain Blade 2 promises to be it's a trudging through the mud simulator almost. Like you're just you start out as a medieval nobody, and you just grind your way up to the top of being a medieval somebody. But I find the grind really dull in the other Mountain Blade 2s, the other Mountain Blade games, because it's not very forgiving, and a lot of the early game is just walk around, run into 6 bandits with clubs, get clubbed to death.
Yeah.
And then you wake up in a town with no money. And getting past that is hard. So I usually end up I cheat my way to a place where I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with this, and then kind of go from there.
One thing I hope they can do is like improve on the strategic aspects a bit, because obviously it's a bit more fun once you're up at the top and you kind of you're playing with the army of a king or something, but it can always be a bit annoying because obviously you'll be leading an army. And the AI isn't completely stupid, so it won't just run its armies into you all the time. And so you can sometimes basically go around half someone's kingdom, never run into a proper enemy force. And then, obviously your army breaks up because you've achieved your goal or something. And then suddenly 10 different armies just ambush you out of nowhere.
Mm.
But yeah, looking forward to it. Maybe.
Yeah, it seems like from the details they've shown, it looks like being able to command stuff in battle looks a little bit better, so you can be a little bit more tactical in how you command your army. That looks improved.
Mm-hmm.
But a very similar game, which apparently is coming out this March, is Kingdom Come Deliverance, which I think was kickstarted, and is a similar kind of medieval RPG, but it's
extreme on the realism.
Yeah, it's extreme on the realism. I think they describe it as real Skyrim, but without all of the fantasy stuff.
It's like Skyrim, without guns.
Yeah, so it's you start and you similarly you start as a random sort of peasant guy. I think you start out as someone whose family is killed, and you join a lord's retinue to get, to sort of train. But it's going to be a game where they've put a huge amount of thought and perhaps too much detail into like the sword fighting system. Like there's 6 different ways you can hold your sword and attack.
Yeah.
Cool.
And there's loads of things really cool, like how armor affects you is interesting. Like there's a cool clip of him the character puts down a visor and suddenly they can barely see anything.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing the video of it, and one of the things that really struck me was obviously most medieval combat games underplay how useful armor is, because otherwise combat is very frustrating. But that one really doesn't, because I remember seeing combat and it's like, right, so essentially if you're fighting someone who has anything like chainmail or better, you're not going to do much to them except whack them a bit by slashing at them. And so you need to work around that. And then obviously with like bigger suits of armor and everything, that's even more prominent. Like you need to use like crushing blows or knock them down. And
like fancy like stabbing specific parts and stuff.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting, but yeah, maybe it might be a bit... The problem with all these really realistic games is that there's a fine line between finely tuned realism and just things becoming very clunky. I
think I worry that it's gonna be a little too pedantic. Like your character has to like learn to bandage themselves up, otherwise they have to like pay a healer to heal them. And there's some interesting like elements, like if your character gets blood on them from a fight and then you walk into a village, everyone will react differently to you, apparently.
Yeah, okay.
Which is, and I think it's cool, but I think there will be a lot of like micromanaging elements that will be annoying. Like you break your sword and it's like, oh great, now I've got to replace it, I've got to sleep, I've got to keep eating.
Yeah, so it depends on how badly that affects the pace of the game. Like if it just ends up being tedious rather than immersive, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why lots of games are about one thing rather than about everything in that way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like some games are just medieval combat and that's it.
Yeah, like I think no one ever looks back at the kind of late Middle Ages, early Renaissance and thinks, man, the life of a low-born peasant looks fun.
Yeah, can't wait to simulate it.
Yeah.
But then again, it could be engaging, could be interesting. There's going to be horses in it, so...
There will for sure be horses in it.
Definitely be horses.
Whether you can afford one for the first half of the game is an entirely different matter.
You can't afford a horse. You buy a horse, but you can't afford to feed it, so it starves to death.
That would not surprise me if that's a factor. Like,
yeah.
You don't have the necessary skill unlock to know how to feed a horse, so you have to hire a squire, pay him money.
God, can you imagine if that's the case? You're there holding the horse food, the horse is in front of you, but it's like, do not have the required skill.
Like,
you just try to shove it at it.
You've got to learn how to min-max the right mix of barley and oats for optimum horse stats.
Your horse is malnourished. It's not been receiving enough protein in its diet.
Then you overfeed the horse and it's just too fat to run. You go into battle and it's just like...
Overfeed your own character and become a very fat man.
Yeah.
like a Robert Baratheon late era kind of guy.
You return to deliver a quest at a castle. It's like, you have lost influence with this lord because your horse's mane was improperly braided.
You cannot get into your armour for the battle because you put on too much weight around your waist.
Please return to the armourer to have your suit adjusted. Yeah, I feel quite mean-spirited now making fun of a game we don't know the details of, but I mean, yeah, I think that's the potential, that it could be a bit frustrating in that way. I think, because sometimes in games they have a tendency to make you learn as a skill things that are basically common sense.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, there's probably more to bandaging a wound than just sticking a bandage on it. Like, especially with regards to, I don't know, disinfecting it and stuff. But... Yeah.
It's like, it sounds like you have a huge amount of freedom. It's just whether that freedom will get in your own way. Like, apparently you can... Yeah. There might be a scene where you're in an army and there's a big battle is about to happen with another army, and you can like sneak into the other people's camp and poison their water, or you can, like, it sounds like they've really put effort into thinking about approaching tons of things in different ways, but whether it becomes too much, and like it's exciting to be able to do lots of things, but when certain things just get like that you have to
if it's too like min-maxy before those things become accessible. Like you go to poison the well, and it's like, well, your character doesn't know anything about poison, so you don't pass the check, and then you just wasted some time, or I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, it should be interesting, shouldn't it? At least, I mean, it's
one way or another.
Definitely unique sounding, not quite anything like it. So that's always good.
I mean, it does seem to have a bit of the old Kickstarter ambition syndrome.
Yes, we will add everything. You give us this much, we'll add this as well. You want this, we'll add everything.
You can do everything you can do in real life in our game,
and we'll make miniatures of that. I mean, speaking of highly realistic sword games, aren't you quite excited for Monster Hunter World, Nevi?
I am. I wouldn't say it was realistic, but I am definitely looking forward to it.
I've been trying to prepare a segue about very large horses, but
beat you to it.
That's just as good, really.
Yeah, no, I am. It's coming out in like a couple of weeks, actually, isn't it? End of this month. It's gonna be. I've played so many of the Monster Hunter games now that I've always had that thought of, it'd be really nice to play it on like the TV on the big screen and have sort of that high fidelity of it, and for it all to be like one big world, each map area. And it's a reality. It's something that I first played the first Monster Hunter game probably back on the PSP. That'll be like at least 10 years ago now. So yeah, no, I'm properly up for it. I missed the beta though, and I was gutted because like the download was going, and it was like this is going to take 12 hours. I have other things that I need to do with the internet. I can't afford to have no internet for 12 hours, so I skipped that one.
It's the worst thing if you're downloading a beta and it like expires just as it finishes installing, and it's like a 30 gig download, and it's like
yeah, it was like 30 gig, and I was just like, never mind. I know enough about Monster Hunter to know that it's going to be good. Like if all they did was take Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate or Generations and literally copy pasted it to a PlayStation 4, Xbox, whatever, then
is it on the Switch?
I think if I remember, they've said it could be. It's going to come to PC. I know that much, but
I think I remember hearing that they have some kind of plans for a Monster Hunter on the Switch. I don't know if that means a port of that,
or a different,
or like a normal Monster Hunter game. But I think
because I know the portable Monster Hunters on PSP and DS were huge in Japan. Like you had huge community meetups where people would like sort of go on hunts together and stuff. I mean, I just have flashbacks to my friends convincing me that I should play Monster Hunter with them, and just having to suffer through 2-hour-long monster hunts. Use it and in order to control it on the PSP, you had to utilize the claw. Which is you had to curl your finger like in front of the PSP that should really be sitting behind it or on the trigger. You need to curl it in front in order to use the face, like in order to use the D-pad to look around.
Yeah.
People give the Monster Hunter series a lot of shit for not having evolved over the years, but I mean the 3DS versions of the games are like easily the best the games have ever been.
Absolutely, yeah. Each of them have just sort of gradually got better on the DS as well. Like there's like introducing you to the world and showing you like how the systems work, and also especially now since like the new 3DS has that weird nub thing, you've actually got an active camera you can use as well,
and also making the hunts last less than an hour is handy as well. I appreciate that.
It's like 45 minutes into a hunt, like my hands are so tired, and then you just get one swipe, and it's like it was all for nothing.
It's like, oh no, that Rathalos has just whacked me into a hole. Good night. And then that was your team's last life, and it's like, oh, you fucked it for all of us. Our whole lunch break at school is ruined because of you.
Or it'd be like, or we'd finish the quest, and they'd be like, cool, well, I just need to do that 6 more times so I can complete the armor set.
That one guy who's like, oh, I'm still trying to fight this one monster because it's still not dropped this one specific bit I need for my armor set. I'm very excited for Monster Hunter World, but at the same time, I'm terrified of it. I'm terrified of it just absorbing my life.
It's absolutely going to. I'm doing my best to kind of burn through as much of my backlog, which will come on to later.
Well, are you guys
that's
planning to get it
coming
on PC?
I don't know. I might get it on PS4. It's weird because it seems almost at home on a TV, but I might get it on PC. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
like if I was playing it on a more comfortable system, I could see myself really enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting it on the PC because I know more people who I'd be able to play with on PC. But because I spend so much time on my PC working, I kind of don't like sitting here to play games that much. Like I quite like to just sort of sit on the sofa. So
Yeah.
kind of just gonna get it on the PS4. It's just easier than like having to worry about if it doesn't run properly on my PC with the specific settings or anything. I'll do is just put it in and press play, and probably lazy more than anything else. But like I can't be arsed trying to faff with settings on a PC as much
That's
as I
fair.
used to.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be cool to have it see on the Switch because it made sense to on like a portable system just because even though the missions were an hour, they were so like defined. It was like that is an hour of the game that you are playing, and then
It is so much
you
better when
could
you
just
have-
so easily just it was like start and then play and then you put it down again.
Yeah, I mean the latest 3DS ones all have online play, which they didn't have previously. I think it's like 4 and then generations did.
Yeah,
but it
definitely.
is much better when you have multiple people in a room. Like it's good over that. But the DS you had, like you couldn't really talk to anyone. There was no voice chat. You had like pre-made commands basically. So when you have people in the same room, you can properly like ask for like backup or like someone needs to watch out for this because it's coming in behind them because they're panned the other way and they can't see it. Or it makes it far more of a better cooperative experience when you've got them there. So I've only done it a few times, played it on the 3DS with people in the same room, but it definitely improves the experience.
Yeah, totally. I've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
Very good.
So from massive swords in Monster Hunter to stupid swords are massive as well in Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, which is coming out at a similar time, which I'm also quite looking forward to.
So right, is it a remaster or a new game? 'Cause I
Completely
can't-
new game. So what happened is that the original Dissidia games were on the PSP, and then they made an arcade version in Japan, and the PS4 version is the arcade version from Japan ported to PS4.
Okay.
Nice and
It's-
simple.
And so, right, so Dissidia it's a fighting game, right?
Yeah, it's Final Fantasy anime fighting, pretty much. Yeah.
Is it
Imagine-
like a Street Fighter type arcade fighter?
It's kind of. Do you know the Dragon Ball Z like Xenoverse games?
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's
I know
kind
the
of like
Valve
that. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's completely 3D, so you move in whichever way you want to go,
Oh, so
and
kind
then
of
everyone
like
has
Tekken
sort of like
or more
no,
free
more
movement.
3D, like complete 3D. Like
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to think. That's my best example. Like also like the Naruto games have a similar like it's all in like a 3D arena. It's all I think it's always 3v3. I could be wrong there. It might not always be 3v3, but yeah, the beta that I actually played this one was all 3v3, and everyone has you kind of have a fairly limited moveset. I think you only have about maybe 6 moves you can do at a time. But the system works in that there are two basic types of attack. You've got brave attacks and HP attacks. Brave attacks, whenever you hit an enemy with them, it makes your HP attacks do more, and then HP attacks are how you actually damage and kill people. So it kind of works in that way. So you can kind of either try and build up your bravery so it's high enough, then you can hit them with a big one or lots of small ones. But it's really like versatile, lots of dodging and blocking and dancing around and stuff. And it looks very nice. Although I was a bit worried it was incredibly busy at times. Like lots of stuff's happening and you can't always see 100% like what's going on. Like for example, someone's just thrown like a massive magic attack across one side of the screen. Your attack makes explosions. Another person's attack makes ice grow out of the ground. Another one makes lightning come across. And then all those things are kind of converging in the middle all at once. And yeah, I wasn't sure.
That sounds particularly difficult for a fighting game where.
Yeah, I mean,
like-
I wouldn't have said it was like a precision fighting game. It's not
Okay.
like Street Fighter or things like that. It's not it's not going to be about that. It's more about spectacle and kind of. I'm sure there will be people who can get to that sort of level where like they know all the blocks and the counters, and it's got stuff like cancel moves and stuff like that, like you'd find in a normal fighting game, but with a distinct Final Fantasy flair. I think because also all the characters all have levels as well, so I think as you go along, you unlock new abilities for them.
So is that like a campaign mode thing? So is there like a dedicated campaign?
Yeah, there's an actual story mode, I believe. Yeah.
What? Right. So I understand this is probably a useless question because it will it definitely require something like a thesis level document to explain, given that it is Final Fantasy and I'm assuming, is it some kind of crossover game as well? So
yeah, it is.
How has this story come to be?
So I'm guessing it's working on like from the previous Final Fantasy Distia games. Basically, it's like the god of creation and the god of destruction hire essentially Final Fantasy heroes and villains to work for them to kind of fight in this war, and then you end up like good guys versus bad guys essentially, and go in and fight. It's not, you're not going to find like a grand sweeping epic traditional Final Fantasy series. You're not going to relive like the plot of Final Fantasy VI in like all its twists and turns. I imagine it's going to be quite literally your heroes are on the creation side. You're going to go and beat up the guys in the other one, so you're going to go and like punch Kefka and
but is that not
Garland and other people like that, and it's going to be very basic, I'm guessing, but I don't think you need more than that. It's more just like it's just a vehicle to more fights.
Okay, that's kind of good.
Yeah, it looks good. The beta was decent. I had a good time on that. Yeah, it's had several modes that were locked and that couldn't do anything with. So it's got like your standard online and like local like arcade mode thing. I'm still waiting for a game like that to have like a split screen. I'd really like that, but it doesn't have it, so it's a shame.
That is a shame, because I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a similar kind of game, I imagine, to stuff like, do you remember the PS2 Dragon Ball games, like
yeah.
And those were pretty fun when you had people around, because like you're saying, they weren't exactly precision, but they were loud, colourful, really enjoyable kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I was saying about the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games. My brother's got one of those, and I play it when I go and visit him. And like, they have split screen. I was thinking when I was playing the beta, I was like, surely it's not that much of a leap just to add split screen to this. Like, maybe they'll patch it in. I don't know, but probably not. I doubt it. There's probably just not enough of a like pre-existing market for it. Whereas the Dragon Ball
that's surprising
as
a fighting game that it doesn't have local 2-player.
Yeah, but it's not that same sort of like as like Street Fighter and stuff. I think like the Gundam Fighters one that came out recently, that didn't have split screen in it either. It's something about that sort of 3v3 combat that just doesn't allow itself to split screen, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. I guess the thing is, like, obviously with that kind of game, they do have to render the whole game twice for split screen.
Yeah.
But obviously with stuff like Street Fighter, you only have to do it once.
And it's just kind of fully 2D as well, isn't it? So
yeah,
because you do have 6 fighters on the screen at once. Like when you do the online multiplayer, you've got 6 individual people controlling 6 individual characters.
Oh right, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and I never noticed a lag, and I have absolutely shit internet, so that's
good.
Testament to them and their networking there. I was impressed. I think I imagine that there's going to be like a shop where you can pay real money to buy the sort of cosmetic stuff. It seems like that's the case. I haven't looked into it, but I don't think there's any like you buy a sword and it makes you amazing. I don't think the leveling works that way. So no, it should be good. I was toying between getting that or Monster Hunter World, but my old work gave me an Amazon voucher for 50 quid, so I no longer need to make that decision. I can just buy both.
You are resolved.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah.
They resolved your crisis.
Yeah. So
I've been trying to think of a segue to lead us gracefully on to the games that you're looking forward to, Gav, but I've come up with nothing.
Yeah, fuck it. Right.
I mean...
The first one I'll talk about, I can't think of any segues. Wait, no, there was a horse in The Last of Us. There was a horse in it.
I don't think
Do you remember that bit?
Is there a horse in Dissidia? I suppose Lightning might ride a horse at one point. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I remember one of the is it Lightning's one that's a big horse?
Yeah,
that's
what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, big horse. Anyway, so there's horses and everything.
Yeah, either way, we'll stop horsing
horse.
around and just get to the point.
Welcome to the Horsecast.
So I'm really looking forward to The Last of Us 2. Mostly for the reason that the first game was excellent.
Sorry, did you say The Horse of Us 2? I'm not sure.
You're just hearing things.
I can neither confirm nor deny. I might have, but I hope not. Anyway, so The Horse of Us 2.
I think The Last of Horse would be better.
The Last of Horse. Yeah. Yeah, but I want to see what they do story-wise, because the first game ended on such a massive downer, and I have a very great fondness, maybe it's just because I'm a miserable person, for fiction that... Right, the problem with a lot of narrative fiction, especially in films, is this tendency to be like, the good stuff more or less wins in the end, but that just didn't happen in that game, and I really want to see how they sequelify it.
Yeah.
Gracefully, I hope. I mean, the gameplay, it'll probably be alright, solid, but that's not really what I'll be there for, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I was always jealous of because I never had a PlayStation. I was like, man, The Last of Us looks like one game I really want to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. It's like a video game equivalent of The Road, pretty much. That's how I always
somewhere between The Road and... Oh, what's the film I'm thinking of? Oh gosh. Yeah, I've completely sponged that. Anyway, there is a film that is very like it that I cannot recall at this point in time, directed by somebody with actors in it.
Let me just Google that real quick.
Moving swiftly on. Moving swiftly on.
Yeah.
But it does look really good. It looks really good.
And I believe it's coming out this year.
Yeah.
We can only hope.
Yeah. I don't really have that much to say on it. I'm just excited to see what they do with it. And I think, I'm not sure. I don't, obviously Naughty Dog released the
Final Uncharted 4 got really good reception.
Yeah. There was Uncharted 4 and then they released Lost Legacy as well, which was like I think it was, I don't know, I've not played it. I'm assuming it was shorter because it was budget priced.
It was shorter, I think, yeah.
Because Uncharted 4 was the last Nathan Drake game, and then Lost Legacy was a new protagonist.
Yeah. Well, not a new,
people we'd already seen previously. It was like a side story, pretty much. Like, Drake had encountered them before, but they just didn't appear in Uncharted 4, so they gave them their own last hurrah, pretty much, I think. I've not played that either. But Uncharted 4 was very good.
If I understand correctly, that was the Lost Legacy was kind of the work of the secondary team, while the main one was on the Last of Us sequel.
Right.
If I understand that correctly.
Cool.
Anyway, so moving from The Last of Us to a game that will almost certainly not be the last game in the series because the number is already quite large. Dragon Quest XI.
Is that anything to do with Adventure Quest?
No.
I really thought you were going to say, is that to do with horses?
Well, that was my second question.
There are probably horses in it. I'd say there's...
Do you quest for dragons on a horse?
You could. I don't know.
Yeah. It's weird. Maybe. It's called Dragon Quest. You don't often quest for dragons in Dragon Quest.
No, there's usually other stuff going on, isn't there?
Yeah. Are you a dragon?
No.
No.
It's one of those games that I don't understand why it's called that. But then again, I don't understand why Final Fantasy is called that either, really. Apart from the fantasy part of it.
It's neither Dragon Quest.
It's just kind of Quest 11, really.
Yeah, I mean, there might have been dragons in the first game. I don't know. I've not played it, but
the only 3 I've played, I don't think I've met a dragon in them. So, some of them are kind of like big reptile-y sort of things, but they could be outright dragons.
What sort of game is it?
It is
a JRPG.
It is a JRPG, and it is. This is going to sound almost really bad, but it's the Dragon Quest series is like almost like your like the standard template of JRPG, but in a really, really good way.
It is, yeah. So if you think of it like how Final Fantasy has kind of like changed and grown and become something like completely like Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 15 are like a million miles away. Dragon Quest 1 and Dragon Quest 11, I imagine it could be quite similar still. Like they're going to retain
anyway, yeah.
a lot of the similarities that they had originally. So, yeah. But not in a bad way. Like it's refreshing almost.
Yeah, it's refreshing that it's still got like this like this strange like innocence to it, if you know what I mean. And like all the character designs, the whole art of the series is designed by Akira Toriyama, the guy that did Dragon Ball, and so it's got this like really unique art style to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the whole thing just looks lovely, and it's really just charming, is how I'd describe it. The studio that does it also they do like a lot of stuff. Level 5. Oh, I mean, they've done it since 8, I think.
Okay.
And they did Ni no Kuni as well.
Did Dark Cloud and Dark Chronicle and Rogue Legacy, which are probably 3 of my favourite games, to be honest. Especially Dark Chronicle, actually.
They're just...
Ni no Kuni was the one with the dog?
Ni no Kuni was the one that was done with Studio Ghibli, the people who made Spirited Away.
Yeah, I think I can picture it.
It was best known for the Welsh spirit that came alive from a doll. Cause,
yeah. I really like them because they're... Well, for one, they put a lot of effort into the localizations of their games. True. Like, the really good English voice acting. It never feels like it's copped in, especially with Ni no Kuni, because I believe that had the force of the kind of, I believe, the Disney localization team or something behind it like that.
Really? Wow. It was very good.
It was very good. And this is a weird thing about Dragon Quest, but ever since, I can't remember when this tradition first started, but they have these really incredible soundtracks on our version, like these really, really good orchestral soundtracks that they don't have at all in the Japanese version.
Oh, really?
Because the Japanese fans are very attached to their like traditional Dragon Quest like soundtrack, the kind of like 8-bit music.
Huh. That's really interesting. I never knew that. Wow.
It's quite peculiar because like the sound, the orchestral arrangements are really good.
They are, yeah.
Anyway, it's just I'm just looking forward to it. Just it's you know, it's just it's a bit of like a palate cleanser, really, that you can play, and it's like all right, so like really really standard stuff is still really enjoyable.
Yeah. You don't see many games like it anymore. Back when it used to be more sort of PS2 era, there were a lot of JRPGs that came out that were along a similar vein, but most have kind of stepped away from that sort of traditional turn-based combat to things that I don't always think is better, so I'm quite looking forward to kind of just having something that's comfortable and familiar again.
Aye, like it's the video game equivalent of like family home cooking or a very familiar blanket.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be good. I'd forgotten about that until you read it. Yeah, so.
Of course, it's technically a game for this year for us, but it's already out in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Let's move on to your next game, because
yes,
we can stop showing my complete lack of knowledge of JRPGs.
Yeah. So, Vermintide 2. I spent a lot of time with the first one. The second one is coming out, and that's that. Yeah, just it's basically Left 4 Dead, but Warhammer with evil ratmen, and in this game, Servants of Chaos, and
which are evil men.
Evil men, yeah.
Got you.
And they're just really solid melee combat, and just like good hooks to keep you playing.
Yeah, I tried it a couple of times. I don't know why I never really got into it. I think just because I didn't know anyone playing it at the time, and so I only ever because it went on a free weekend a couple of times, and it was always quite fun. But I was never, I think, because I didn't have people I knew I could play with.
Yeah, you do kind of
pulled me in.
Kind of need people to organize with in a way, or it can be kind of frustrating. And the game, it's not that good at explaining some mechanics, and especially isn't very good. I think So it seems like it has this really, really nasty loot system where you just roll a dice and then get stuff.
Yeah.
And it can feel really rough until like it becomes apparent that you're kind of supposed to like move up difficulties pretty quickly and just keep on going up the loot system.
So the higher the difficulty you play means your better chances of getting better loot.
Better loot. Okay. Yeah, like basically if you go up one, you're almost guaranteed that the whole loot system will step up a level in quality.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, I really like games like that. It's just got really good melee combat and a lot of options in the second game. And the first one was really well produced and had a lot of attention to detail and really good voice acting, stuff like that just gives it a lot of personality.
Yeah, I think having been playing a lot of Total War Warhammer, I think I'd quite like another game set in that world.
Yeah,
now. I think I might try and jump into Vermintide 2 this time around.
It's so bizarre that I've said this to other people before, but it's so bizarre that like a couple of years after the OG Warhammer universe officially shit canned, just here's all these Warhammer games.
Yeah, and like they're nailing it as well.
Yeah, like they're doing so well. It's not like they're coppins. There's coppins. I tried to say cash in and cop out at the same time.
It's the opposite of a cop out. Cop in.
Cop in, yeah. It's where you cop it in. Yeah. Anyway, so that's yeah. I've been thinking of writing something on it just because I really like the co-op mechanics in that game. But it's basically Left 4 Dead, which
it is.
No one's really doing.
Yeah, no, it's a shame. I've looked at it a few times because me and my girlfriend used to play Left 4 Dead 2 loads. We've kind of just sort of done it to death, I think, a bit. And I've looked at Vermintide several times and just been like, why don't you have split screen? Why not?
Left 4 Dead 2 didn't have split screen on the PC. I remember you had to like do some weird modding to it to make it work.
It did on the 360 version. Yeah,
it had on all the console versions and was in the PC version.
Right.
But not like not accessible without some weird tweaks to some files and
that is annoying.
A mod.
Yeah, I don't know if it's been announced yet, but I'm hoping it does because then I might actually get it. Otherwise, it's probably going to slip me by again, to be honest.
What?
Yeah.
Get what? Vermintide 2?
Yeah, I really. If it has co-op, I was going to have co-op. If it has split screen, I might jump in on it, but I'm less likely to otherwise. I think.
I don't know if either of you guys are ever keen to play Vermintide on PC. It tends to go very, very cheap. Obviously, I'd be keen to play with somebody.
Okay, yeah, maybe because I have seen it dropping, so I think I'll probably take you up.
I'm pretty sure I have it on a Humble actually, so I think I might.
And indeed, if any listeners want to play with the Bits and Pieces team, you can maybe do that.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
Tough.
Just
because if we have any listeners, you can definitely play with us, and then years later, when we are global international superstars, you can cash in.
Cash in those autograph screenshots.
Cash in. You can cop in them as well, or cop them out, or you can milk them the money cow, the cash cow. This is going into like a very
you cop your right hand out.
Very bad episode of Catchphrase. So moving on.
I think that's everything we're looking forward to then, pretty much. Well,
yeah.
Not everything, but like kind of the highlights, I suppose.
That's all the good games coming out this year. We can go over every
I feel like that was meant to be the positive start, yet somehow we've just been almost gloomy about it.
Yeah, excellent.
In fairness, both of mine do come out at the end of this month, so it's like that's my year done.
Well, I just get into the mentality of like looking forward to new games and just being like, do not get excited, they're going to be bad. Don't get excited, they're going to be bad.
Yeah, in fairness, these will probably be the first 2 games I bought new in a year. I don't think I bought any new games in 2017, actually. I'm trying to think. On release, anyway. No, I don't think I did. I think the last game I bought new on release was Final Fantasy 15. Gosh, and that was 2016, so there you go. Just because it's not always worth it. It's just like, I just wait 2 weeks and it's half the price.
Speaking of games from the past...
Yeah, I was going to say, you've segued us nicely into our next section.
And also gloominess, because there is a pile of shame involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably tell, if you've listened to our podcast, we are not the most timely when it comes to playing games of the moment. But sometimes we do.
Occasionally. We once watched a trailer when it came out, near when it came out.
It was,
We did,
yeah,
we
it was,
discussed it.
it
Last
was within like
podcast.
2 weeks of that trailer coming out.
See, that's really good for us. That is.
It's lit,
That is up to the minute discussion.
it's hot news.
Right.
Well,
right, George, do you wanna tell us about
I'll
your
introduce
pile
the
of shame?
section. This is going to
On you
be
go.
our shame pile, because just about everyone has a shame pile, whether it's a stack of old NES games that you've spent the last 25 years staring at. Really hope I got that time window right, and the NES is that
Probably
old.
did.
I'm gonna. Yeah, no, it must.
It would- yeah, it
no,
would
it has
be
to.
easy.
Oh god, yeah.
It's probably like
Shit.
30 years old now.
30 years old. It's too tame.
Maybe.
But more likely, you've got a backlog of Steam games, because it's so easy to buy games, but it's not easy to complete games.
No,
My shame pile is really more of like a shame Everest.
it's,
And it's actually so like it's like an iceberg,
yeah.
in that I don't feel bad of most of it now because most of it is like hidden below the surface.
I just
Exactly.
can't help myself sometimes. Like I
So
didn't
we're
need
gonna.
to go and buy a new game yesterday, and yet I did. Like I was walking through past Computer Exchange, and I thought I'll just have a look in, and because I own a Wii U now, I just bought a load of cheap Wii games for like 75p, and I've got 4 extra Wii games to play.
Almost got convinced to buy the Humble monthly subscription the other day, which is just like
for Civ 6.
an automatic,
yeah.
and it's like an automatic shame pile generator.
Yeah, it is.
Really, every month.
Each month
not
you'll get a
played.
It's
game that
bigger.
you can just feel bad about not playing.
Yeah, I think I played one of the games I've got off my Humble monthly. I think I've had it for maybe 6 months. Some months I just forget to do it, and it just leaves my account, and then I don't play any of the games. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think like humble games are too abundant in my Steam. Like the number of just small indie titles that I will never ever get around to playing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got many of those.
yeah. We are gonna dig into our shame piles and chat
Yes.
about the games that we mean to get around to playing, and probably make some New Year's resolutions, because hey, it's a new year and it's time for not a new start or even a start. It's just gonna
New Game
do
Plus
a
time.
thing
New
for
Game
the
Plus.
year.
Yeah.
Oh, New Game Plus. That's a good
That's
one.
actually pretty good. We'll go with that. New/old game plus.
Right. So show us your shame, George.
Well-
what is?
The game that I think had been weighing on my conscience the longest. I've actually got a positive start to this section. The game that had been weighing on my conscience the longest was easily The Witcher 2. Because I got that game somewhere near the beginning of when I first got a Steam account, which was maybe like 7 years ago.
It's impressive.
I reckon I got Steam in like 2010, and I reckon I got The Witcher 2 maybe. I reckon about between 5 and 6 years ago, and I completed it 2.5 weeks ago.
Nice.
And
So you did complete it.
I did complete it, which is the positive note, but it was on my shame pile for a long time, because it is a game I had dipped in and out of and constantly tried to get into for almost that entire 5.5 year period. And yeah, just kept bouncing off it. And
It's quite a bouncy title, I'd say.
yeah, like there's a lot of things that can be unfriendly. Like it's one of those games where you can play a particularly tedious mission but forget to save, and then you're way back at the start, and it's like I don't feel like doing that again. And the lore is like really interesting and rich, but very name heavy and doesn't stop to explain a lot. So there's a lot of do your homework, read up on the background in the journals, which are interesting and well written, so that definitely helps. But it does make kind of getting into the game initially a bit tricky.
Yeah, there can be a bit of that, almost like the the effect where Tolkien starts talking about the lineages of dwarves.
Yeah, and you're like, nope,
Like-
I don't want that.
Glorin, son of Glorin,
Yeah, suddenly you're
see no evil, hear no evil.
6 chapters in, and you realise that you've been in Hobbiton for 30 years, and now Tom Bombadil is reading poetry at you, and you're like, I thought the books were meant to be good.
Well,
Yeah,
Just skip that bit. Just
So-
I thought, yeah,
skip past.
it's in many ways it's a lot like finishing the Fellowship of the Ring and being like, hang on, the battle at Amon Hen doesn't even happen in this book.
Yeah.
What is going on? But yeah, I did. I finally finished it because I'd constantly been hearing praise for the. I think it's a small game. It was Witcher 3. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I don't think I've heard of that one. No.
But yeah,
obscure,
I like
actually.
you know I'd heard some kind of from some underground sources that it was quite good, allegedly, and so I was like, yeah, I'd quite like to give The Witcher 3 a go, but I was firm with myself and I said, nope, you can't play The Witcher 3 until you finish The Witcher 2. And Nevi was saying lots of nice things about it, and finally I managed just somehow sat down and I finally got into The Witcher 2, and I was about halfway through the game at this point, which I just constantly like played in sort of bits, and so my knowledge of what was going on in the first half of the game is very poor. Because I really did not enjoy the section in the swamp.
The swamp bit.
The problem with that was once I did get into the story, and by the end, I was really regretting all the decisions I'd made at the start of the game.
I think you do that anyway in The Witcher 2.
Yeah,
because The Witcher 2 is so heavily like politic-y.
I love the decision making in The Witcher because it's interesting. So like it's unlike so many games where so many games encourage you to make the morally good decision and then kind of rewards you for it. Whereas The Witcher, it's like there is kind of no good decision, and often it will paint one decision as a morally good decision and then almost laugh at you for taking that one.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit in The Witcher 2 where you're escaping the swamp town, and it's like, are you going to be? And there's a woman trapped in there's an elf woman trapped in a burning building, and you can either rescue her, or you can kill the kind of evil bad guy who set the building on fire. And he's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to get revenge, or are you going to be the hero? And it's like you can either ignore the woman and just kind of go purely for revenge, or you can save her. And I was like, I'll be the bigger person. I'll forgo my revenge. And then at the end of the game, it's like, and then because you saved that woman, he gets away and he sells the town, and all of the elves in the town are persecuted and evicted. You're like,
excellent.
Oh,
yeah. I know what you mean. Like a lot of games, you almost get this sense that as long as you pick the option that's like the good guy option, like somehow the game will just work everything out for you, and often they do. I feel like in Mass Effect, sometimes you'd pick like the option that's like the Paragon option, which is like the good guy.
Yeah, in Mass Effect, it's very much, would you like to do the good guy blue option, or do you want to do the bad guy big red option? Whereas in The Witcher, it's like, the decisions are always, I don't know what is the right thing to do here. There isn't really an answer.
You can't really just unless I know what you mean. Like there's a I had a good sentence in my head and it's escaped me.
Or like Dishonored, where it's like, if you're a good non-lethal guy, the good ending happens, or you can be bad and everything is bad.
Yeah, like almost in some games you have to like, it's weird. Like you make the good options and you have to like, the morality system is basically you pick good options and you know that good things will happen. And if you pick the designated evil options, you have to go in with the expectation that evil things will happen. Like it's gonna have a worse ending because of it, and it's really peculiar in that way. I think the way games do their morals. I think Witcher is good at complicating that.
Yeah, it leaves you. So many decisions leave you unsure about whether that's the right answer. And when I found myself you begin to almost sort of justify and moralize yourself. The game kind of leaves that up to you. So it's like, and so you kind of almost choose what you think is the right path, rather than the game being like, here is the good guy path, here is the bad guy path.
Yeah.
So with the Witch, in the Witch 2 ends, and it's like, there is no kind of good ending. Like I just happen to like a certain set of characters, and so my choices were like, well, I want to help those specific characters and help them achieve their things, which is why, even though there were perhaps other characters that you would like to help, but I didn't know or wasn't as interested in. There was no particular right answer.
Yeah, I think Witch 2 that has a specific problem in that, like, with the choices? Like, I'm assuming you chose to side with Roach.
No, I sided with Yorvith and
Oh,
then
really?
I did, yeah. So
See,
I sided with
I'm
Yorvith
surprised.
and then was like full on Saskia's amazing.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough,
Big up
yeah.
Vergen, gonna make it
Yeah.
a freedom town for all the oppressed and downtrodden masses.
Because the first time I played, there was absolutely no way I wasn't gonna just side with Roach, because the other guy was just a lunatic. He was just like a psychopath who just killed everyone. Like I felt like there was like it didn't introduce like the other people early enough to make you think that there's like a sort of a nicer side to that movement rather than it just basically just being terrorists. So but then the second time I played through, I went on the other side. But
I think it's
it's
just it's the way it presents it. 'Cause it's like they are it's very much that they are a terrorist movement from the perspective you hear about them.
Yeah.
But then you kind of like read a lot of stuff, and it's also like, but from their perspective, they are there's a lot of speciesist prejudice and like racism and
Oh yeah, no,
like
absolutely.
sort of like sort of elf pogroms and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But I can't remember what his name is now. But the main elf guy,
Yorvith.
Yorvith. He's just not the person that you want to be the face of that, because he literally
he's a bit
is
nuts.
just a crazy person who kills people. Like he does not make their cause sympathetic.
Yeah, I mean, like you do get to be buds though if you, which is nice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the thing. And so now I have started The Witcher 3, which I mean to finish this year, but I'm absolutely loving because it has made some big improvements just to quality of life. Like the map works. The mini map just didn't really work in The Witcher 2. It's just a lot. It was just very difficult finding your way around. The save system is nice. I like the combat.
Oh, the combat's so much better. Yeah.
Just good stuff in The Witcher 2. The world feels great. It reminds me a little bit of Red Dead, like just riding around. It feels just like an interesting lived-in world.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like it's very rich. Like, so I've been listening to some of the Witcher short stories, which aren't particularly useful for like the wider lore, but they're more just like kind of like interesting little flavor snippets of like monsters and sort of cute little tales, and some of them kind of riff on like classic fairy tales. Like there's a Snow White thing and a Beauty and the Beast thing.
Yeah, I think as you do more of the side quests in The Witcher 3, you'll see some of them are like they riff on the short stories and stuff. Like
yeah, and that's what I really find like
similar
comes
monsters
out
as
in the
well,
world.
which
Like
is
it's
really
just
good.
really interesting to like oh man, the story is just so good. Just all the side quests have just interesting story, and there's cool little like monster of the week detective missions where you're doing a Witcher contract and you're like finding the clues to hunt down a monster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't feel like there was enough of those in The Witcher 2. Like there weren't. that
No,
many
it
hunts,
was. I never really did. I didn't really do any of the side stuff in
Yeah,
The Witcher
there
2.
just wasn't that much in the way of side hunts to do. Well, there's quite a lot of like just sort of what essentially were just delivery quests almost, but like wasn't that much of just being a Witcher. And in 3, you really just get to do that, like just go into some woods and hunt down a beastie, which is quite good.
It's
weird because
I was gonna say it's interesting when you're very much noticed by the world.
Yeah,
In the say like when you ride into a village, it's weird. It's a weird feeling because like it feels rich in the sense that all the villages are populated, and you are very much in contrast with the aesthetic of the village. Like you're this big warrior that rides in on a horse, and everyone's kind of everyone's kind of agricultural people. But then the village will react to you, so you hear like people like talking about how weird you look, or like being sort of mean comments about witches and stuff. And so it does have that kind of like that fairy tale feeling of like lone warrior kind of rides into a town and stuff happens.
yeah. So
Right. Anyway, we can talk about The Witcher 3 for ages. But when you finish it,
I
we'll
could,
do
yeah.
a specific. We'll do a specific
stop.
Witcher 3 podcast, and then we can all talk about it like without spoiling anything for you.
I think
So
we may need to pick up the pace. Although I think it's hard to. Other games just don't invite so much talking as The Witcher because there's a lot to talk about.
there is.
Yeah.
It has so much back
It's-
to it and stuff. It's got a lot
But yeah.
going on. Anyway,
The time is ticking on, unfortunately
let's
for
jump
us
ahead.
in our lives. So what else, George?
So the other
What's your
two
shame
quick
pile?
items on my shame pile. So one is a game I'm looking forward to getting around to playing eventually, which is Shadow Tactics, which is it's not quite turn-based, it's like a tactical strategy game where you're controlling a squad, but it's stealth, and it's kind of set in feudal Japan,
Yeah,
and you're kind of
really
controlling
good.
a
This one.
sort of
Really,
tactical
really good.
stealth team of ninjas, and it just looks great
Does.
because I love stealth games. I love XCOM. It just looks fun.
I've heard it's a lot kind of like a Ninja Commandos.
Yeah, it is pretty much
And
that.
I've heard many people say many good things about it, but also that it's very difficult and requires much time and patience. Patience?
That worries me.
Yeah.
Like a doctor. Patience.
I'm terrible with time and patience.
Aye, same.
Which is probably why the other one which is actively in my shame pile, is Divinity Original Sin, which is a big old isometric RPG, which is kind of my first dabblings in the genre, but it was basically because I was really enjoying The Witcher 2. I was like, I'd quite like to get into another like big RPG, though it is very different.
So is that the first or the second one?
The first, so there's Divinity Original
Okay.
Sin, and then they've released Original Sin
Yeah.
2. But
Yeah, because that came out last year and is apparently very good.
yeah, I'm not even sure if you even need to play the first one to understand the second one. I think I just
Not
had
sure.
it in my head that I was like, I should play the first one first.
I
But yeah,
noticed
that's
I didn't
something
play the first Witcher game before jumping.
Yeah,
into
well,
it.
I drew the line because I
Don't,
was just
it's
like,
not worth
that
it. It's not worth it.
that just looks too much of a unforgiving.
No,
Do you remember all
aged
your
game.
comments about the minimap being arse and side quests being shit?
Yeah.
Imagine that, but it's a whole game,
Yeah.
and every single little level feels like a miniature prison designed to torture you with side quests.
That is why I did not play The Witcher 1. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm strict
It's-
with myself about playing games in order, but
Yeah,
I can't do that.
I give it the mercy of saying it's dated,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've heard good things about Divinity.
Yeah, like
So-
I'm kind of trying to get used to like sort of managing a little RPG party and kind of still getting my head around what seemed like very interesting and complex systems.
Yeah, there's kind of a lot of genre conventions I think you need to learn.
Yeah.
A lot of games that riff on them these days assume everyone already knows because the genre's been around for 1,000,001 years.
Yeah, and it is not. I have absolutely no experience with the genre, so
Yeah, I remember playing Neverwinter Nights 2 as a young boy unfamiliar with the trappings of the genre and being very confused
is that what
by
they
the
call
fact that everything
growing up in
worked on
Scotland?
it. Yeah, Neverwinter Nights 2 is
Tuesday.
basically
isn't it?
life.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah. Sometimes the weekend as well. But yeah, I was confused the fact that everything ran on dice rolls. That
Yeah.
fucked me up. Like, what's this? Dice rolls in my computer video game? So, speaking of RPGs, Nevi,
Oh, most of my.
You've got
backlog is
a big old
RPGs.
backlog list of RPGs.
I mean,
here in the
massive
show
pile.
notes.
Yeah, it is the genre that I generally play the most, so it's what I just have the most of a backlog. And my backlog that I've listed is kind of just like the tip of the iceberg, to be
Aye.
honest. It goes far worse than this.
As far as I can tell, this list seems to be the entire Kingdom Hearts series.
It is, but I have finished the first one. I finished the first one before Christmas, and my plan was to finish because I got the big collection thing for the PS4 that has I think it has 4 games in it that sort of lead up to Kingdom Hearts 3. And I thought, well, I'm gonna finish them all before the third one comes out. Because I think I played before I played 1 and 2, but I never touched any of those. So I just thought, well, I'll try and see if I can get a coherent story out of what's meant to be going on. I mean, I doubt it's never going to happen because it's Kingdom Hearts, but a boy can try. So yeah, I've got there's 3 other games still to play. I've started 2 of them for about an hour and a half each, and they're about 40-hour games probably. So
Because Kingdom Hearts are like a crossover between sort of JRPGs and then Disney characters.
essentially, it's
Because some of the
Disney
Final
Worlds.
Fantasy characters are in there.
Yeah, there
as
are
well.
some. It leans more heavily on bringing in sort of the JRPG aspects from Final Fantasy, and then it just literally just sets you in Disney worlds. There's a level in Kingdom Hearts 2 where you go to the Pride Lands and join Simba for a bit, you turn into a lion yourself, which is quite cute. But there's also ones like where you go to Neverland, and you get to fly and do Peter Pan stuff.
Does this mean now that Disney own just about every cultural IP under the sun that we could see a crossover into Kingdom Hearts of both Star Wars and, now that Disney owns Fox, the Alien franchise?
It could be. You never know. I mean, Alien less so, but I imagine maybe Star Wars and Marvel. I mean, I think from memory that there might have been talks about it maybe being a thing. And I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3 is not likely to come out for ages, so they keep saying it's going to be next year for like the past 10 years. So,
because I guess Star Wars got into Disney Infinity.
Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, this one's definitely got Toy Story in it, so it's not exactly a huge leap to think it might have other stuff. And then the other ones had there's like Winnie the Pooh and things, which I always forget's Disney. So yeah. Yeah, they're all sort of, well, apart from Chain of Memories, which is a bit weird, they're all sort of hack and slash RPGs where you just sort of mash some buttons and do some cool combos.
But your swords are keys. That's the other thing I've seen.
Yes,
from
it
pictures.
is the most insane game. It's the sort of game that when you explain to people, they look at you and go, "And you enjoy playing this?"
You're right, mate.
I was sat playing it. My girlfriend came in. She was like, I mean, why are
is
you
Donald
a
Duck
fish
bashing
man
that man's
underwater
face
with
around with a
Ariel?
key?
It's like you know you're 27, don't you? And I'm like, it's fun. Promise, it's not ridiculous.
With a crazed look in his eyes, it's fun.
Yeah, it does make you sound insane. But yeah, those are on my shame pile because I started them both before Christmas and haven't really touched them since. And I think I kind of burnt out after playing Kingdom Hearts 1. Now I was like, I don't really feel like another one right now because they're sort of iterations on each other, so they're fairly similar. Oh, what else is on here? My other JRPG is Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age, which I have written an interesting article about, the Gambit system.
That was quite interesting. It sounded like an interesting system.
It is interesting. My issue with it is just that it's massive, and I don't particularly like the story in it, so I'm not that engaged with, like, oh, I've got to go and save the kingdom. I'm just a bit like, yeah, it's my thing I listen to when I've got like a podcast that I want to listen to, so like if I've got something queued up that's worth listening to, I'll stick that on and I'll just do some Zodiac Age for a little bit, but it's not high on my list of things that I'm going to get to.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
And then now do your final three in one sentence each.
Okay, so to echo Twilight Princess, I need to go to some Pillars of Eternity? Sentence.
Oh, and sure, if you just want to put them into one sentence, I meant
one sentence.
Oh, I thought you meant put them in one sentence. One sentence each.
By all means do that, but
there we are.
Well.
Basically, I need to finish Twilight Princess Echo, which is a really interesting game that I talked about a few podcasts ago last year, I think.
I think it was the last episode, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, we've been on hiatus.
Yeah.
I can't remember anything.
It was anyway, previously on Bits and Pieces, I talked about Echo, and it is really good, but I got stuck on it because it's also quite hard. So it's on my shame pile of things to finish because I really liked it, but it's really hard. And then Pillars is just a time sink that I don't really have time for right now. So
I feel like you've been much stricter with yourself. I was like, you've got loads of games from your shame pile. I just picked the three that I think I'll probably end up getting around to playing anyway.
It will take an eternity to beat that game.
Yes.
Thank you.
I bow to you, sir.
Sorry.
That was
I'm sorry.
And there's loads of others.
Pray for you.
I know the way out.
I've got so many others. I've got 3 Tales games downloaded on my PS3 to play that I owned for like 6 years probably or something ridiculous. So I've got so many. Like I've got to stop buying games. Like I bought Trauma Center the other day for 75p. I don't know when I'm going to play that. It just looked interesting. It was 75p.
Quick, move on before we end up hearing about every game.
Go.
Right. Okay. My list, one sentence each. Persona 5, sunk about 50 hours into it when it came out during my dissertation, and I've only played it occasionally since. Love it, but do need to finish it.
Yeah.
Prey, started it. It's really good. I like it a lot. Very System Shock. Still not finished. Neo, again, came out like the start of last year. Have not yet finished it. And Stellaris, I just want to get more into the big strategy games this year.
Yeah,
so.
that's also one that's on my shame pile. I need to learn that game, play that game a little bit more. Aren't they? Did I misremember this? But did I hear something about a System Shock HD remake?
There is, I believe, something happening. I think I don't know if it's kind of I think it's an official sanctioned thing, but I think it could be kind of almost one of those, ascended mods like Black Mesa Source, that kind of thing. Not 100% on that.
Interesting.
So, right, we need to resolve ourselves to move on
We do.
with the podcast. So what are our resolutions for this year?
Who wants to go
Finish some games.
Finish some games. That's good. Mine, personally, my aim for this year is to hopefully finally become good at fighting games. Because I suck at them.
That's a
So
good
bad.
one. That's a good
I am terrible, and I'm just bad at learning fighting games.
I bounce off them very hard.
Yeah, I think we've established that I'm the person that just sets a resolution that's really easy and requires no effort.
Ah, well,
just so that they
at
can
least
feel nice.
At least you'll actually do it. At the end of this year, I'll probably still be trash at Street Fighter. So
Is it Street Fighter 5 you're gonna try out?
I don't know. I have right. So I've been getting into a Brawlhalla a bit. It's kind of basically just a Smash clone.
I've been playing a bit of that.
No offense to the game. It's good fun though.
Yeah.
Just really easy to learn, and it's just been making me think I kind of want to get into other games again.
Yeah.
There's a new Dragon Ball Fighters game coming out.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It's really fun. It's got the same cool style of the more recent oh god, what's it called again?
It's Guilty Gear, people, isn't it? It's
Guilty
how
Gear.
system works.
Yep.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
as well.
And it looks really good in that kind of style. Really gets the style right, and it's got some really like beginner friendly things. I played the beta and got my face smashed in because there was no training mode. And I don't know any of the moves, but yeah, I'm kind of keen to play that. Kind of keen to get into Street Fighter 5 again because again, it's got kind of more simple inputs than the previous ones in the series.
Yeah.
But yeah, fighting games are kind of my goal for this year.
That's a good goal. What's mine? Probably just to actually play some Wii games. Like I've never really ever played any Wii games, so I've been looking into just weird Wii games to play, like Trauma Center. I never even knew that was a thing, to be honest. But it's by Atlas, so it sounds interesting. At
Trauma
least it's
Center.
about being a
I think
doctor.
I think there were DS ones as well.
I don't know. I was like, do I recognise this? And I was looking into the back of the box and I was going, am I just thinking of a different game where you play as a doctor? But anyway, there's quite a lot of weird and quirky Wii games that came out that use the motion controls in odd ways. So my plan is just to kind of just explore this extremely old system, and also
That's
with
fair.
Wii U. There's also some cool stuff on there. Far less,
There were.
but a few things.
Excellent. We are resolved.
We are resolved.
I'm
Been
gonna,
lovely playing Captain Toad on my Wii U.
I'm gonna
Nice.
race us through
That
some
game is
board games so
very
we
good.
can
Sorry, go,
arrive at my
Cycle-
bargain basement
cycle ahead.
quiz.
Okay.
Yes.
Including, I believe, the board game that delayed this podcast.
The board game that
yes.
delayed this podcast. The game that is not quick.
Did
The
you
game
win?
that took 11 hours to play.
Who were you
I
playing as? Were you the Space Lions?
I was not the Space Lions, so I played Twilight Imperium 4th edition, which, for if you don't know, is a big old board game. Real big. It is a big sci-fi strategy game. There's diplomacy,
Huge.
there's trading, there's a lot of war, or not a lot of war, and you're fighting to score objectives to be the first to 10 objective points. And I
you
played
played
last weekend, and it took 11 hours, but it was great fun. I did not play as the Space Lions. I played as the regular space humans.
Like space snails or slugs or something as well. It's like a snaily.
There are space fish in a jar. There are space turtles.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. It's fish in a jar.
To my neighbours in the galaxy were on one side big old angry plants, and I had the Space Lions on my other border. But they both proved very good neighbours. It was the slippery snake people that were the trixiest, and they managed to sneak a win. But yeah, no, it's a fun game that just kind of is big in scope, and it's basically been refined a little bit for 4th edition. Because the third edition was a big game and then got expanded to be an even bigger game with 2 big expansions, and they've kind of taken a lot of the good stuff from the expansions and included them in 4th edition. Like, all the races that were available in the previous game are available in 4th edition, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because, basically, the race you pick at the start of the game has a big effect on, well, to an extent, on how you play and the interesting sort of specific mechanics that you get. Like, humans are really good at just spreading out and making people. Like, they have a flagship that just makes people. It's called the Genesis. I imagine it's just successive generations of people being born and trained into the special forces on that ship. But yeah,
was it good?
It was good.
Was it good?
Like it it's a game you have to set aside a day for, and I'd say there were 3. I think we were 2 new players. But it's also one of those games that, because you rarely play it, comes out, you forget a lot of stuff in the interim. I could see it going quicker if you played the same group over and over again, but no, it's got a lot of nice stuff, and it's just a gorgeously produced game. It's just, the quality of it is excellent. And the complete opposite of it is Flamme Rouge, because as everyone knows, the opposite of a turtle is a Frenchman on a bicycle.
That is true. I've checked with the science man.
Flamme Rouge is a cycling racing game that does not take 11 hours, but rather takes about 40 minutes, and is just nice and simple. It's literally just a case of you play a card that has a number on it, and then your cyclist moves that number of spaces. But yeah, that was a game I took home for Christmas, played with my siblings, even got my dad to enjoy a game of it. But yeah, it's just a really nice, light game that you can not think about, or think about quite a lot and try and do a little bit of strategy. So it's just kind of quite really accessible, and you just have nice little plastic cyclists that run along a track. I've yet to try any of the interesting road segments, because it comes with a whole load of road puzzle bits that you assemble together to make your race course. And there are exciting things like hills and cobblestones.
No!
But that's all too crazy. I've just been playing with the regular road.
Yeah, there's a campaign version of that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Bring it all together into a grand.
Because the core of it is you cycle, and then you can slipstream behind other cyclists, and if you fail to slipstream, then you take an exhaustion card, which is just like a crap card that goes into your little deck that represents your cyclist's energy, essentially. And so the more exhaustion you take, when you draw your hand, suddenly you discover that you've only drawn crap cards, or you didn't get the burst of speed that you needed. So there's kind of lots of little managing stuff there. But you can play a little tour where you play multiple races, and apparently some of the exhaustion in your deck carries over between races.
Cool. Makes sense.
I'd like to try that, and I look forward to playing more.
Good.
But that brings us to the finish line of this big podcast race. And waiting for us
we're all exhausted.
Is a seedy looking salesman who's got a quiz under his jacket.
Oh, good. Can we have a go?
You can indeed. Welcome to Barker's Bargain Basement, where you guys are going to play real or fake. I didn't have much time for the subtitle. So
true or not true?
A lie or not a lie?
Excuse me, I'll just go get Noel Edmonds from out of the closet. Deal or no deal?
Deal or not a deal? So I can't remember how I found it, but I ended up on a weird back end of Amazon looking at knockoff games devices, of which there are so many, and the descriptions of them are just brilliant, because they were either written by a bot or someone with little grasp of English, or someone in another language and then translated into English. But so many of them just make so little sense that it's wonderful. So what I've done is I've prepared 4 questions, and each question I will read 3 little snippets from descriptions of these wonderful, totally legitimate devices, and you need to spot which device is the real device. For example,
Okay.
So 2 of the segments will be from totally legitimate, best ever fun console, and one of them will be from a real life console, such as your Wii U or your PSP.
Got you.
However, to make them,
And we have to find the real.
you have to find the real one. Sounds simple.
Deceptively so.
Deceptively so, because I've made the real ones blend in with their real fake counterparts by running them through Google Translate several times.
Aha.
They've been translated through several languages and finally back into English.
Yeah.
But George, the neural network, it's supposed to work perfectly these days.
Well, you'd hope, as I imagine the real fake snippets were written in a very similar way. So to kick us off, which of these options would you like to buy? I'm going to read you a little snippet. So the first one is just general
Right.
description. The other ones are themed slightly.
Okay.
So
Exciting.
option A comes with, I'm going to read these slowly because, my God, some of these sentences are hard to read. With the real game controller's pad, this is not a new way to play with friends, but how to get involved with friends and relaxation. So that's option A.
Okay.
Option B. This is slim, portable, and trendy. Has 2 million rear camera. You can shoot at any time you like pattern.
What?
And finally, item C. The feeling in the hand is firm, inclined, a right thumb for thumb, 2 triggers and an 8-line keyboard to help you control. The handle and handle structure improves and can be easily adapted to a wide range of manpower. Faster response menu and control keys for easy mapping.
Oh
Right.
God, I have no idea.
Okay. That's all. That's the only
I'm
response.
gonna
Really. Okay.
go with
Which of those
B.
is a deal?
I'm gonna go with B. I'm feeling
So
B.
I believe B was this game is slim, portable, and trendy. Has 2 million rear camera. You can shoot at any time you like the pattern.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, what was A again?
A was
Run that by
the
me
real
again.
game controller's pad. This is not a new way to play with. The real game controller's pad. This is not a new way to play with friends, but how to get involved with friends and relaxation.
I'm going to say A is the real one.
Oh.
You are correct, Gavin.
Aha.
You have managed to get yourself a real good deal on a Wii U.
That's what I thought. You see, I couldn't think of anything real that was slim and portable, or might be mangled to be slim and portable, that also has a rear camera on it. But I know this is probably bad logic, because there's no chance of it having a rear camera on it, probably.
Yeah, I'm afraid, Nevi, you have ended up with an Anbernic handheld game console, 4.3 inches, 653 classic portable game console, tap kill support, GBA, GBC, GB, Sega, NES, SFC, Neo Geo, birthday presents for children, -blue.
So I thought
think you got
it
the
might have been
better
the
thing.
3DS because you got the camera on the front and then on the other side.
Oh,
Maybe.
you do actually.
Yeah.
Well, this has 2 million rear camera.
2 million. I
That's
didn't
a lot
understand
of
that bit too bad.
I mean, if you think the 3DS had 2 cameras, which made it 3D, that must be like, God knows how many dimensions that cameras are in.
Can see through multiple dimensions. Okay, so now I'll be selling you some products based on their visual fidelity or their screens.
Okay.
Okay.
So, item A, the backlit function of the screen ensure players can play everywhere. That was item A. So B,
Okay.
larger sized HD screen get you better Vison experience when playing games. Help the player to observe the details and react quickly, protecting your child's sight health.
Right.
And finally, option C. For those who see the eyes of the real world, it could be more sustainable. I can't read this, it's just so unreadable. Calm down, okay. I've got it. For those who see the eyes of the real world, it can be more sustainable, perhaps more feasible and valuable.
Right, okay. I'll let you guess first this time.
I'm going to go with B.
So I'm going to go with A.
So A was the backlit function of the screen ensure players can play everywhere. And B was larger sized HD screen can get you better Vizon experience when playing game. Help the player to observe the detail as well as protecting your child's sight health. I'm afraid neither of you have ended up with the shiny PlayStation 4 HDR you could have got had you decided. Yeah, the console.
I decided that I wanted to see the eyes of the real world.
Had you decided you wanted to see the eyes of the real world? That was one of the more mangled descriptions from Google Translate.
It's incredible. See, I just thought that it wouldn't be so funny if it wasn't real. I don't know. That was
so. Passing on that, you've won yourselves a handheld game console, 16GB 5-inch screen, 2000 classic game support and video music playing, built-in 3M camera in one USB charge. Birthday and New Year's best gift for kids. Brackets black.
Nice.
Good.
I'm looking forward
Protect
to
your child's eyes. Protect.
My child's eyes help, really do. They need the...
I think they just dropped the H, it just says sight health.
Sight health.
Okay, so these are notes. Section 3 is notes from the usage instructions.
Okay.
Option 1. If button doesn't work, customers just need to press the button to automatically return to the correct position and start the normal work. Option B. If you hear unusual sounds and see a wonderful smell, remove the power station from the power station support and customer communication.
If you see a smell.
And option C, on my shiny display rack. Do not keep high volume for a long time. If you have tinnitus symptoms, have small volume or not continuous use headphones.
I think C's the real one.
C sounds legitimate advice, but then I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But I'm going to go with C as well.
I'm afraid you are both wrong.
No.
As you plunge your hands into the lucky dip box, you've come out with handheld game console, a Nurbit game console, 2.8-inch 1/6 games, LCD, PvP game player, classic game console, 1 USB charge presents for children -black.
Well, at least my children's sight, health, and their hearing will be protected by my quality choices in entertainment systems.
This is true.
So what you should have gone for is, if you hear unusual sounds and see a wonderful smell, remove the power station from the power station, support and customer communication, which would have netted you a lovely new Nintendo Switch.
Oh. If you see a smell.
You know it's bad when that happens.
Yeah.
That's a quote straight from the Nintendo Switch user manual, by way of several translations.
Excellent.
Oh dear.
Finally, lots of these have small print notes, which I have selected a few of.
Okay.
So, note, if there is a scratch on the screen, please don't worry, the game console is 100% brand new. There is a protective film on the screen. You can remove or hold the protective slim. Hunt Mic 2.7 LCD screen.
Mm-hmm.
That's option A.
Quite.
Option B. Note. 1. Before connect to a TV, make sure that your TV and the unit are turned off. 2. Switch the channel on the TV to the audio-video channel. And finally...
Nice. That's my favourite channel.
Option C. Months, TVs and premium electronic utilities. Rates for ISPs, 4K playback and application options.
Good. I like all those features.
Yeah. I'm going to go with B.
Okay. I am going to go with C.
Nevi, I'm sorry. You have come away with a game handheld console, Rock's Yu Yu-San game console 2.8 LCD PvP Plus game player classic handheld game console 168 games in one USB charge birthday Christmas gift for children. While Gav,
Nevy's got a lot of birthday or Christmas gifts for children.
Doing quite well.
they're just hitting those SEO keywords, really, is what they're doing.
Yeah.
While Gav,
I
you
got?
have come away with a shiny new Xbox One.
Oi! Hooray! I can't wait to get home and play all my favourite Microsoft IPs on it. So George, when does it arrive in the mail? And where do I send? To whose PayPal do I send the money?
You send a small fee to bits and pieces at PayPal /scam.
Oh, that's my favourite.
Yeah, I mean,
Is this the first time I've won a quiz?
I think it is.
I think you might be.
With a big score of
Yay.
2-1.
2 points. That's good.
Well done. I didn't get any points, but I did get a lot of stuff, so...
That's true.
You've got a whole load of junk consoles.
Got a ton of tat.
I highly recommend just having a browse through, because some of the stock images are wonderful, including a whole load of renders of the console with hands photoshopped on.
Very badly photoshopped.
Yeah, they're very good. Oh, yeah. You can entertain yourselves for hours just looking at those. I'll try and remember to put some, or one or two in the description of the podcast. On
Yeah,
the
I'll put a link to my favorite, like all the letters that they replace some of the keys with. So like this handheld one has DCAB keys.
Ah.
Oh dear.
Classic. Or should I say, game classic handheld game console 60 and so on.
I think that that brings us to the end of our double digits podcast.
An extra long hour 40, we come skidding to a halt.
We do.
There's a particularly good one that has its weird render of this dodgy looking console with then what I assume is a ripped image of Battlefront 4 playing on it.
Good.
Which I think is probably a bold claim.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like one.
For a 3-inch retro game console with 566 games portable video game player.
3-inch.
Yeah, that's
566
how big
games.
the screen is.
And they're all Battlefront.
You can enjoy Battlefront 4 in glorious 3-inch display.
Inglorious 0.1K resolution.
Oh,
Yeah,
dear.
and they make some wonderful use of stock images.
There you go. Ways to entertain yourselves between articles and podcasts there. From us.
Between that New Year's celebration that we had and the next one, just
Yes.
spend the entire year staring at stock images and going slowly insane.
Yeah, we'll wait for George to finish his next game of Twilight Imperium. We'll see you in 2019. Anyway, I think that all that is left for me to do is to sign us off and say goodbye and thank you for listening. If you
for
found
listening.
us without the website attached, do check us out at bitsandpieces.games. We've got some cool articles. We've got a New Year's roundup, a 2017 roundup to say what we enjoyed from it. So give that a good read. It was fun to write. We've all got our own little sections, so there's a voice from everyone, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
Good.
You can also follow us on the Twitter at Bits Plus Pieces, or on Instagram and Facebook at Those Bits and Pieces. If you've enjoyed the podcast, do give us a rating thingy. It would be nice.
And recommend us to your friends and family.
Yes.
At least once a day.
At least.
Minimum.
Or you don't get to play Vermintide with us.
Exactly.
We'll check your cards at the door, your ID.
Yeah, you need signed proof. Anyway, thank you for listening, and goodbye.
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 What was with the gaps between goodbyes?
Because we're terrible at saying goodbye.
More
It's so
emotive.
difficult.
Alright, so should I hit stop recording?
Yeah, probably.